Queen had ruled the empire for 300 years. She controlled 40 star systems and billions of subjects. Her species was powerful beyond measure. The stood 7 feet tall with 4 arms and skin the color of dark purple stone. They lived for thousands of years and possessed the ability to read minds. They had conquered dozens of civilizations and crushed anyone who stood against them. When the first discovered humanity, they laughed. Humans were small creatures from a tiny blue planet in a forgotten corner of the galaxy. They had no natural weapons. They could not read minds. They lived for less than 100 years and died from diseases that would not even slow down a child. The Galactic Council did not even bother to classify them as a threat. They were listed as a minor species, barely worth noticing. But the humans had something valuable. Their solar system sat at the entrance of 5 major wormhole corridors. Any ship that wanted to travel quickly across the galaxy needed to pass through human space. This made Earth very important for trade and military movement. Queen needed access to those corridors. She could have taken them by force. Her warships could destroy Earth in a matter of hours. But war was expensive and messy. It would damage the wormhole stations and turn other species against her. She needed a cleaner solution. Her advisors suggested a political marriage. Among the marriage between rulers was a tool of diplomacy. It bound 2 peoples together through tradition and ceremony. If Queen married a human, their species would become allies. Earth would grant access to the corridors, and they would provide protection. The Queen agreed to this plan. She sent a message to Earth requesting a suitable male for the union. The humans sent Daniel Carter. Daniel arrived on a small transport ship. He carried only 1 bag and wore simple clothes. He was 34 years old with brown hair and brown eyes. He stood 5 feet and 10 inches tall, which made him look like a child next to the towering guards who escorted him. Queen watched him from her throne as he entered the great hall. She studied him with her 4 golden eyes and found nothing impressive. He walked with his head slightly bowed. He smiled too much. When he spoke, his voice was soft and polite. "Your Majesty," Daniel said, bowing deeply, "I am honored to meet you. Thank you for this opportunity." The Queen tilted her head. "You are the one Earth has chosen." "Yes, Your Majesty. I hope I can serve you well." "Serve her well." The Queen almost smiled at his choice of words. This human understood his place. He was not here to be an equal partner. He was here to be a symbol, a decoration, a quiet presence in her court that would remind everyone of the alliance between their peoples. "Tell me about yourself," the Queen commanded. Daniel straightened slightly. "I was a teacher, Your Majesty. I taught history to young people at a school in a place called Ohio. I enjoy reading, gardening, and learning about other cultures. I have studied your language and customs for the past 2 years in preparation for this day." A teacher. The Queen exchanged looks with her advisors. They were struggling not to laugh. "Earth sends me a teacher." "I understand I am not what you expected, Your Majesty, but I promise to be respectful, helpful, and never a burden to you." The Queen waved her upper right hand dismissively. "We shall see." The wedding took place 3 days later. It was a grand ceremony held in the Temple of Eternal Stars. Thousands of nobles attended, along with ambassadors from a dozen species. Daniel stood beside the Queen in a simple black suit while she wore armor made of living crystal that shifted colors with her mood. He spoke his vows in perfect, which surprised some of the guests. His accent was clumsy, but his words were correct. When the ceremony ended, they were officially married. That night Daniel was shown to his quarters. They were comfortable but small, located far from the Queen's chambers. This was intentional. The marriage was political, not romantic. He was not expected to share her bed or her life. He was expected to stay quiet, stay out of the way, and appear at official functions when required. Daniel accepted this without complaint. For the first 3 months he was almost invisible. He woke early each morning and read books about history and culture. He practiced the language with a tutor. He took walks through the palace gardens and asked the servants about their lives. He was kind to everyone he met, always smiling, always polite. The queen saw him perhaps twice a week during official dinners. He would sit at the far end of the table, eating quietly, speaking only when spoken to. He never interrupted. He never demanded attention. He never asked for anything except permission to plant a small garden in a corner of the palace grounds. The queen granted this request without much thought. What harm could a garden do? She began to forget he was there. Her advisors told her that humans were simple creatures. They lacked ambition and cunning. They were easily satisfied with small comforts and posed no threat to anyone. Daniel Carter was proof of this. He wanted nothing more than books, plants, and quiet evenings. The perfect consort, they said, decorative and harmless. Queen believed them. Why would she not? She had ruled for 3 centuries and read the minds of countless beings. She knew how to spot danger, how to identify threats, how to see through lies and deception. But Daniel Carter was different. When she tried to read his mind, she found only calm thoughts. He was thinking about dinner, or a book he was reading, or the flowers in his garden. There was no hidden anger, no secret plans, no ambition lurking beneath the surface. He was exactly what he appeared to be. A simple, modest, harmless man. She had no idea how wrong she was. In the shadows of the palace, Daniel continued his quiet routine. He read. He gardened. He smiled at everyone and thanked them for their kindness. But sometimes, late at night when no one was watching, he would stand at his window and look out at the stars. His eyes would change in those moments. The softness would disappear. Something older and harder would take its place. He would study the guard rotations, note the positions of security cameras, and memorize the faces of every noble who visited the palace. Then he would return to his bed, close his eyes, and become the harmless teacher once again. The game had only just begun. The first hint came during a state dinner 6 months after the wedding. Ambassador Al of the Dominion had arrived to negotiate a trade dispute. They were one of the most feared species in the galaxy. They looked like giant insects with hard shells, sharp claws, and mouths full of teeth. They stood 8 feet tall and weighed over 500 pounds. Their voices sounded like rocks grinding together. Ambassador Al was known for his cruelty. He enjoyed hurting weaker beings and making them feel small. When he entered the dining hall and saw Daniel sitting at the far end of the table, his mandibles clicked together in the version of a laugh. "Is this the human pet I have heard about?" Al asked loudly. "The Queen's little decoration." Several nobles laughed nervously. Queen's eyes narrowed, but she said nothing. She wanted to see how her consort would react. Daniel looked up from his plate and smiled warmly. "Good evening, Ambassador. It is an honor to meet you. I have read much about the Dominion. Your people have built an impressive civilization." Al's eyes glittered with amusement. "It can speak. How delightful. Tell me, little human, do you do tricks as well? Can you fetch things for your mistress?" More laughter from the hall. Daniel's smile did not waver. "I am afraid I am not very talented, Ambassador, but I would be happy to refill your drink if you wish." The ambassador laughed again and waved him away. "Stay in your corner, pet. The adults are talking." The dinner continued. Ambassador Al spent the evening insulting various guests, making demands, and testing the Queen's patience. He wanted better trade terms and was willing to be unpleasant until he got them. But while everyone focused on the ambassador's loud behavior, no one noticed Daniel. He sat quietly at his end of the table, eating small bites of food and watching. Sometimes he would ask a servant a simple question. Sometimes he would make a comment to the noble sitting next to him. He never raised his voice. He never drew attention to himself. Near the end of the dinner, Daniel stood up to use the bathroom. On his way back, he passed by the ambassador's seat. He paused and bowed politely. "Ambassador, I hope you are enjoying your visit. Is your room comfortable? I heard the eastern wing has beautiful views. Al barely looked at him. I am not staying in the eastern wing, human. I am in the southern tower. My apologies. I hope the journey here was not too difficult. Space travel can be tiring. It was acceptable. We avoided the usual routes to save time. How clever. You must have excellent navigators. The ambassador snorted. Navigators are the best in the galaxy. Now leave me alone. Daniel bowed again and returned to his seat. No one thought anything of the exchange. It was just the human pet making awkward conversation. The next morning, Queen received a request for a private meeting with her chief strategist, General. The general was a battle-hardened warrior who had served the Queen for 200 years. When she arrived at the meeting room, she found Daniel already there, holding a piece of paper. Your Majesty, Daniel said, bowing, thank you for seeing me. I apologize for taking your time. The Queen sat down, curious despite herself. What is this about? Daniel placed the paper on the table. I have some information that may be useful to you. General picked up the paper and read it. Her 4 eyes went wide. She read it again. Then she looked at Daniel with an expression of pure shock. This cannot be correct, she said. I believe it is, General. You can verify it through your own intelligence sources. Queen took the paper from her general. Written on it were 3 sets of coordinates, a name, and a detailed analysis of Ambassador Al's personality and weaknesses. What am I looking at? The Queen asked. Daniel folded his hands in front of him. The coordinates are the locations of 3 hidden military bases. Your intelligence services have been searching for them for decades. The name belongs to a spy working in your court. She has been sending information to them for at least 5 years. And the analysis describes the ambassador's psychological vulnerabilities, which you can exploit during negotiations. General's voice was harsh. How could you possibly know this? You are a teacher. You have no training, no resources, no access to classified information. Daniel shrugged modestly. I just paid attention, General. Explain. During dinner, the ambassador touched the left side of his chest whenever someone mentioned the eastern provinces. Do this unconsciously when they are thinking about something they want to protect. He was worried about those regions, which means something valuable is hidden there. I cross-referenced the gesture with his travel route, which he mentioned avoided certain coordinates. Those coordinates match the locations I have written down. The Queen leaned forward, and the spy. The ambassador made several jokes about humans throughout the evening. Everyone laughed except one person, Lady Myra of House. She kept her face completely neutral. This is unusual because she normally laughs at everything. She was afraid to react, which means she has a connection to the ambassador that she did not want anyone to notice. A review of her communication records should confirm my suspicion. General stared at him. You determined all of this from a single dinner. I spent 20 years teaching teenagers, General. You learn to notice when someone is hiding something. The Queen was silent for a long moment. Then she ordered her intelligence services to verify everything Daniel had written. 3 hours later, they confirmed that every detail was accurate. The hidden bases were real. Lady Myra was indeed a spy. The psychological analysis helped the Queen negotiate a trade deal that heavily favored the Empire. Ambassador Al left the palace confused and frustrated, never understanding how the Queen had outmaneuvered him so completely. That evening, Queen summoned Daniel to her private chambers. He arrived looking nervous, as if he expected to be punished. He bowed deeply and waited for her to speak. You are not what you appear to be, the Queen said slowly. Your Majesty. Do not play games with me, Daniel Carter. No ordinary teacher could do what you did today. Who are you really? Daniel was quiet for several seconds. Then he smiled, but it was different from his usual smile. There was something sharper behind it. I am exactly who I told you I was, Your Majesty, a teacher from Ohio, but But I should mention that being a teacher requires many skills, patience, observation, the ability to understand how people think and why they behave the way they do." He paused. "Humans have been studying each other for a very long time. We have become quite good at it." The Queen studied his face, searching for deception. She tried to read his mind again and found only calm, peaceful thoughts about gardens and books. "You are hiding something," she said. "Everyone hides something, Your Majesty, even you." For the first time since they had met, Queen felt uncertain about her human consort. She had dismissed him as harmless, as decorative, as insignificant. But now she wondered if she had made a terrible mistake. What else was Daniel Carter capable of? She would find out soon enough. The attack came 8 months after the wedding. It was a night of celebration. The palace was full of guests honoring the Queen's 300th year of rule. Music played in the great halls. Nobles danced and drank and laughed. Servants carried trays of food through crowded rooms. Queen had retired early to her private chambers. The celebrations tired her and she wanted time alone to think. She dismissed her guards and locked the doors. She was the most powerful being on the planet. She did not need protection. This was a mistake. At midnight, the power went out. Emergency lights flickered on, casting red shadows across the walls. The Queen rose from her chair, her senses alert. Something was wrong. The door exploded inward. 12 warriors poured into the room. They wore black armor and carried weapons designed to kill royalty. The Queen recognized their fighting stance immediately. These were elite assassins trained from birth to kill. They served whoever paid them the most. The lead assassin stepped forward. His face was hidden behind a mask of black metal. "Queen," he said, "your reign ends tonight. Lord or of house sends his regards." The Queen backed away slowly. She was powerful, but she could not defeat 12 alone. Her telepathic abilities would not work on them. Their minds had been trained to resist. Her physical strength was great, but they were faster and better armed. For the first time in 300 years, she prepared herself to die. "Kill her," the lead assassin commanded. The warriors moved forward. Then a voice came from the adjoining room. "Excuse me." Everyone stopped. The assassins turned to see a human standing in the doorway. Daniel Carter was wearing simple sleeping clothes and holding a cup of tea. He looked at the scene with the expression of someone who had walked into the wrong room at a party. "I apologize for interrupting," Daniel said calmly. "I heard loud noises and wanted to make sure everything was all right." The lead assassin laughed. It was a cold, cruel sound. "The human pet, I forgot you existed." He gestured dismissively. "Step aside, little creature. This does not concern you. We have no quarrel with your kind. Leave now and you may live." Daniel took a sip of his tea. "That is very kind of you, but I am afraid I cannot leave." "Why not?" "Because you are trying to hurt my wife." More laughter from the assassins. The Queen stared at Daniel in confusion. What was he doing? He would be killed in seconds. "Your wife," the lead assassin repeated. "How touching. Do you think you can protect her, human? You are small and weak and fragile. We could break you with one hand." Daniel set his cup down on a nearby table. His movements were slow and deliberate. "You are probably right," he said. "I am small and weak compared to you. Humans are not built for fighting. We have no claws, no armor, no natural weapons. We die easily." He took a step forward. "But there is something you should know about humans, something the galaxy has not yet learned." Another step. "We are very, very good at killing things." The lead assassin was done talking. He raised his weapon and charged. What happened next took 11 seconds. The Queen watched in frozen horror as Daniel moved. It was not like any combat she had ever seen. There was no formal stance, no warrior's honor, no announcement of intent. He simply moved. The first assassin's blade came down in a killing arc. Daniel was not there anymore. He had stepped to the side at the last possible moment. His hand shot out and struck the assassin's elbow at a precise angle. The arm bent backward with a sickening crack. The blade fell from useless fingers. Daniel caught the blade before it hit the ground. The second assassin attacked from the left. Daniel ducked under the strike and drove his palm into the warrior's throat. The assassin made a choking sound and collapsed. The third and fourth attacked together. Daniel threw the blade at one and used the moment of distraction to close the distance with the other. His fist hit a spot just below the warrior's ear. The assassin dropped instantly, unconscious before he touched the floor. The blade Daniel had thrown buried itself in the third assassin's shoulder. Daniel was already moving past him, using the wounded warrior's body as a shield against the fifth attacker. 5 seconds had passed. 4 assassins were down. The remaining 8 attacked at once. Daniel did not stop moving. He flowed between them like water through rocks. Every strike was precise. Every movement was efficient. He targeted joints, nerve clusters, pressure points that even doctors barely understood. He used the assassin's own momentum against them, redirecting attacks so that they struck each other. He broke bones with casual ease. He dislocated joints with small twists of his hands. He struck vital points that caused instant paralysis. He never used more force than necessary. He never wasted a single motion. 11 seconds. 12 elite warriors lay broken on the floor. They were alive but completely helpless. Some groaned in pain. Others stared at the ceiling in shock, unable to understand what had just happened. Daniel picked up his cup of tea and took another sip. It had gone cold. "I apologize for the mess," he said to the Queen. "I will call the guards to clean this up." Queen could not speak. She could not move. She had ruled for 300 years. She had watched wars, conquered civilizations, and faced enemies that would terrify most beings. She had never been afraid. She was afraid now. "Daniel," she whispered, "what are you?" He looked at her with those same gentle brown eyes, the same eyes that had smiled at her during their wedding, the same eyes that had watched her from across dining tables for 8 months. "I am a history teacher from Ohio," he said. "I told you that." "That is not possible. No human could do what I just saw." Daniel was quiet for a moment. Then he walked over to a chair and sat down across from her. His movements were casual now, relaxed, as if he had not just defeated 12 elite assassins with his bare hands. "Your Majesty," he said softly, "humans are not what we appear to be." "Explain." "We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every day. We had no claws, no fangs, no armor, so we became smart instead. We learned to make weapons. We learned to work together. We learned to study our enemies and find their weaknesses." He paused. "We have been apex predators for 200,000 years. We just prefer not to advertise it." The Queen's voice was barely a whisper. "Why?" "Because appearing weak has advantages. Enemies underestimate you. They lower their guard. They make mistakes." Daniel smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Every species in this galaxy has dismissed humanity as harmless. They think we are soft and fragile and easily controlled. They are wrong. He stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the celebration continued. Guests danced and laughed, unaware of what had happened in the Queen's chambers. "The reason humans seem so modest and unremarkable," Daniel continued, "is because we learned long ago that hiding our true nature is more effective than displaying it. We are patient. We watch. We wait. And when the time is right, we act." Queen stared at the broken assassins on her floor. These were the best killers in the galaxy. Each one had trained for decades. Each one had killed hundreds of targets. They had been defeated by a history teacher in 11 seconds. "Who sent you here?" she asked. "What do you really want?" Daniel turned to face her. For the first time, she saw something ancient and dangerous behind his gentle eyes. "Earth sent me to protect its interests," he said, And right now, Your Majesty, you are one of those interests." He bowed slightly. "Sleep well. I will make sure no one disturbs you again tonight." Then he walked out of the room, leaving the Queen alone with 12 broken assassins and 1,000 questions she was afraid to ask. Queen did not sleep that night. She sat in her damaged chambers, surrounded by broken furniture and bloodstains, watching the security footage on a screen. She watched Daniel defeat 12 assassins over and over again. She slowed it down frame by frame. She brought in combat experts to analyze every movement. None of them could explain what they saw. General stood beside her throne, her face troubled. "Your Majesty, we have completed the investigation. The assassins were hired by Lord, or he has been arrested. The threat is over." The Queen did not look away from the screen. "Tell me about my husband." The general hesitated. "Your Majesty, I want to know everything. Contact Earth's government, demand his full records, use whatever channels necessary. That may cause diplomatic problems." "I do not care, do it." 3 days later, General returned with a report. Her face was pale. She had not slept in 2 days. "Your Majesty," she began, her voice unsteady. "What I am about to tell you is classified at the highest level. Earth's government did not want to share it, but I convinced them that refusing would damage our alliance." The Queen gestured for her to continue. Daniel Carter was not selected by lottery. He was chosen specifically for this mission by an organization called the Terran Strategic Integration Corps. This organization officially does not exist. Its members are trained from childhood to be the most effective operatives humanity has ever produced. Trained in what? The general looked at her notes. Combat in 47 different styles, intelligence gathering, psychological manipulation, linguistics, cultural assimilation, long-term strategic planning, infiltration, assassination. She paused. The list continues for several pages. Queen closed her eyes. What else? Daniel speaks 47 languages fluently. He holds advanced degrees in history, psychology, and xenobiology. He has participated in conflicts on 4 different planets, always in advisory roles that resulted in decisive victories for Earth's interests. The general's voice dropped lower. His kill count is classified. Even Earth's government would not share that number. The Queen opened her eyes. Why would Earth send someone like this as a mere consort? I asked the same question. Their representative told me that it was the optimal strategic decision. Explain. General sat down heavily, as if her legs could no longer support her. Your Majesty, Earth has been watching the Empire for a very long time. They knew that a political marriage was the most efficient way to gain access to the wormhole corridors, but they also knew that sending someone weak would be a mistake. Why? Because your nobles would have seen it as an insult. They would have used it to undermine your authority. Eventually, there would have been a coup or a civil war. This would have destabilized the entire region and threatened Earth's trade routes. The general spread her hands. By sending someone capable of actually protecting you, Earth ensured that your position would be strengthened. The Empire remains stable. The alliance remains strong. Everyone benefits. Queen was silent for a long moment. She thought about the past 8 months. Daniel in his garden. Daniel reading books about poetry. Daniel smiling gently and asking permission for small things. All of it had been calculated. Where is my husband now? She asked. In his quarters, Your Majesty. He has been tending his garden. The Queen stood up. Take me to him. She found Daniel exactly where the general said he would be. He was kneeling in the dirt, carefully planting flowers in a row. His hands were covered in soil. He looked up when she approached and smiled. Your Majesty, what a pleasant surprise. The Queen did not smile back. We need to talk. Of course. They walked together through the palace grounds. Guards followed at a distance, watching Daniel with new eyes. Word had spread about what he had done. The servants whispered about the human who had defeated 12. Some looked at him with fear, others with respect. Queen led him to a private garden far from the palace walls. She stopped beside a fountain and turned to face him. "I know who you are," she said. Daniel nodded calmly. "I assumed you would investigate. Why did you not tell me the truth? Would you have believed me?" He tilted his head. "If I had walked into your palace and announced that I was a highly trained operative sent to protect Earth's interests, you would have seen me as a threat. You might have rejected the marriage. The alliance would have failed. So you lied to me." "I did not lie, Your Majesty. I simply did not reveal the full truth. There is a difference." The Queen felt anger rising in her chest. "You manipulated me." "Yes," Daniel did not look away. "But I also protected you. I saved your life. I helped you defeat your enemies. Everything I have done has been designed to strengthen your position and ensure the stability of our alliance. For Earth's benefit." "Yes," he paused, "but also for yours. The two are not mutually exclusive." Queen turned away and stared at the water in the fountain. She had lived for 300 years. She had seen empires rise and fall. She had played the game of politics longer than most species existed, and yet she had been outmaneuvered by a species she had dismissed as insignificant. "What else does Earth know about my empire?" she asked quietly. Daniel was silent for a moment. Then he spoke in a different voice. It was harder, colder, more precise. "We know the locations of every military installation in your domain. We know the names of every noble who might rebel against you. We know the weaknesses in your economic system and the vulnerabilities in your supply lines. We know which of your advisors can be trusted and which ones are planning to betray you." The Queen turned back to face him. "How?" "Patience, observation, analysis." Daniel's eyes were different now. The softness was gone. "Humanity has been studying the galaxy for generations. We learned early that we could not compete with other species through brute force, so we became experts in other things: information, strategy, long-term planning." "You make it sound like Earth has been preparing for war." "Not war, Your Majesty, survival." Daniel stepped closer to her. "Every species in this galaxy is larger than us, stronger than us, longer-lived than us. If we had revealed our true capabilities, we would have been seen as a threat and destroyed. So we hid. We pretended to be harmless. We let everyone underestimate us, while secretly positioning yourselves for advantage." "Yes." Queen felt something she had not felt in centuries: respect. This small, fragile species had done something remarkable. They had turned their weakness into strength. They had made the entire galaxy believe they were harmless while quietly building the foundation for their own security. "If Earth had decided the Empire was a threat," she said slowly, "what would have happened?" Daniel's expression did not change. "You would have been dismantled within a decade, not through open war. That would be wasteful. Through economics, politics, cultural influence. Carefully placed agents in positions of power." He paused. "Agents like me." The Queen let out a long breath. "And you chose cooperation instead." "Yes." "Why?" For the first time since they had started talking, Daniel's expression softened. He looked almost human again. "Because you are a good ruler, you care about your people. You try to be fair and just. You are exactly the kind of leader Earth wants to ally with, not destroy." He smiled slightly. "And because, over the past 8 months, I have grown to genuinely respect you." The Queen searched his face for deception. She found none. "What happens now?" she asked. Daniel held out his hand. It was still dirty from the garden. "That depends on you, Your Majesty. We can continue as we have been, or we can build something new, a real partnership between our peoples, based on truth instead of manipulation." Queen looked at his hand for a long moment. Then she took it. The days that followed were strange for Queen. Everything looked the same. The palace still stood tall against the purple sky. The The servants still bowed when she passed. The nobles still gathered in her court to seek favor and power. But something had changed inside her. The universe she thought she understood had revealed itself to be far more complicated than she ever imagined. She watched Daniel differently now. He still tended his garden every morning. He still read books about poetry. He still smiled gently and spoke softly to the servants. But she no longer saw these things as signs of weakness. She saw them as a mask, a carefully constructed disguise that hid something far more dangerous underneath. And yet he had never harmed her. He had protected her. He had saved her life. He had shared information that helped her defeat her enemies. Despite everything, he had been a good consort. This confused her more than anything else. One evening she found him sitting in his garden, watching the sunset. The light turned his brown hair gold and cast long shadows across the flowers he had planted. He looked peaceful, almost ordinary. She sat down beside him without speaking. They watched the sunset together, in silence for a long time. "I have been thinking," she said finally. "About what, Your Majesty?" "About you, about humanity, about everything you told me." Daniel nodded, but did not respond. "I have ruled 40 star systems for 300 years, she continued. "I have conquered civilizations and crushed rebellions. I have faced enemies that would terrify most beings in this galaxy. I thought I understood power. I thought I knew what strength looked like." She turned to look at him. "But you have shown me something different. Your species is small and fragile and short-lived. You should be weak. You should be easy to control. Instead, you have built something remarkable. You have turned your limitations into advantages. You have made the entire galaxy underestimate you while quietly preparing for whatever comes next." Daniel smiled slightly. "We had no choice. Survival demanded it. And yet you chose not to use this power against me. You chose cooperation instead of conquest. Because cooperation was the better path for both of us." The Queen was quiet for a moment. "I have been trying to decide if I should fear you or trust you." "What have you decided?" She thought about everything that had happened since he arrived, the intelligence he had gathered, the assassins he had defeated, the secrets he had revealed. He could have used any of these things against her. He had chosen not to. "I have decided," she said slowly, "that you are the most dangerous being I have ever met. But I have also decided that you are honest about your intentions. You want this alliance to succeed. You want both our peoples to benefit." "That is correct." "Then I choose to trust you," she paused, "but I have conditions." Daniel turned to face her fully. "Name them." "No more secrets. If there is something I need to know about Earth's plans or intentions, you will tell me. I will not be manipulated again." "Agreed." "Second, you will teach me. I want to understand how humans think, how you plan, how you see the galaxy. If we are to be true partners, I need to know what I am partnering with." Daniel's smile widened. "I would be honored." "Third," the Queen hesitated. "This was the hardest part. I want this marriage to be real, not a political arrangement, not a strategic alliance. A real partnership between two individuals who respect each other." For the first time since she had met him, Daniel looked surprised. "Your Majesty." "I have lived for 300 years, she said. "I have had many political marriages. They meant nothing. They were tools, nothing more." She looked at him directly. "But you are different. You see me as a person, not just a queen. You have never tried to use me or control me. You have simply been present, helpful, kind." She reached out and touched his hand. "I do not love you. I am not sure I know how to love anyone, but I respect you, and I would like to see if we can build something real together." Daniel was quiet for a long moment. The sunset painted the sky in shades of orange and gold. Somewhere in the distance, birds were singing. He said softly, it was the first time he had used her name without her title. "When Earth sent me here, I expected this to be just another mission. Protect the Alliance, gather intelligence, Stay hidden. I did not expect to find someone I actually cared about. He turned his hand over and held hers. You are strong and intelligent and fair. You rule with wisdom instead of cruelty. You treat your people with respect. I have watched you for 8 months, and everything I have seen has impressed me. He smiled. I would be honored to build something real with you. Queen felt something shift in her chest. It was unfamiliar, strange, almost uncomfortable. But not unpleasant. The years that followed changed everything. The Terran alliance grew stronger with each passing day. Trade flourished between the two civilizations. Cultural exchanges brought new ideas and new perspectives. Scholars studied human history with fascination. Human scientists worked alongside researchers to develop new technologies. And at the center of it all were Daniel and they ruled together now, not as queen and consort, but as equals. Daniel attended council meetings and offered his perspective on strategy and diplomacy. Learned to see the galaxy through human eyes, to think in terms of long-term planning instead of immediate dominance. They complemented each other perfectly. She was strength and power. He was patience and precision. Together, they were unstoppable. 20 years after their wedding, the Terran Alliance had become the most powerful force in the galaxy. Other civilizations sought their friendship. Former enemies sued for peace. The wormhole corridors that had once been a point of conflict became a symbol of cooperation. And still, ambassadors from other species underestimated Daniel. He was gray now. Humans aged so quickly by standards. His face had lines that had not been there before. He moved a little slower than he used to, but his eyes were the same, sharp, observant, missing nothing. When foreign diplomats visited the palace, they often dismissed him as a curiosity. The queen's aging pet, a relic from an outdated treaty. They spoke freely around him, assuming he was too old and too human to matter. They never noticed him watching them, noting their gestures, analyzing their words, building psychological profiles that would later help outmaneuver them in negotiations. Some lessons, it seemed, were never learned. One evening, as they sat together in the garden Daniel had built so many years ago, turned to her husband with a smile. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked, "coming here, giving up your life on Earth?" Daniel considered the question carefully. His hands were rough from decades of gardening. His hair was more gray than brown now. "No," he said finally. "I have had a good life here, a meaningful life. I protected something worth protecting. I built something worth building, and I found someone worth knowing." He took her hand. "Earth taught me many things, how to fight, how to plan, how to hide my true nature from enemies, but you taught me something more important." "What?" "That sometimes the greatest strength is not hiding what you are. It is finding someone who sees you clearly and accepts you anyway." Felt her chest tighten. Even after all these years, he could still surprise her. "I love you," she said. It was not something she said often. It was not in her nature to be soft. But Daniel had taught her that softness was not weakness. Sometimes it was the bravest thing you could be. "I love you too," he said. They sat together in the garden, watching the stars come out one by one. Two beings from different worlds who had found something unexpected, something rare, something worth protecting. The galaxy still saw humanity as modest and harmless. That was fine. Let them believe what they wanted. The truth would reveal itself in time. Some lessons, after all, were best learned through experience. The end.